Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Man Behind the Curtain. Devin Harlow straightened his off-the-rack tie in the bathroom mirror of his modest suburban home. At 42, his once athletic frame had softened slightly, though his piercing hazel eyes remained sharp and observant. The alarm clock read 6:45 a.m., early enough to avoid the morning argument with Vanessa. He moved quietly through the master bedroom where his wife of 7 years still slept, her beauty-masked face buried in Egyptian cotton pillowcases that cost more than Devin's entire wardrobe, or so she believed. Downstairs, he made coffee and checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Laurel Valentine, his executive assistant at Zenith Enterprises. Only 5 people in the entire corporation knew that Devin Harlow and Preston Xavier Caldwell, the reclusive billionaire founder and CEO of Zenith, were the same person. Laurel was one of them. "Another fire to put out?" he muttered, returning her call. "Morning, boss," Laurel answered immediately. "The Montgomery acquisition paperwork needs your signature before the market opens." "I'll be there in 30, Devin replied, hanging up and slipping his phone into the pocket of his unremarkable slacks. The sleek, gunmetal Audi R8 waited in a private garage 3 blocks from his house. Devin never drove it home. Vanessa believed he commuted in a 2015 Honda Civic. The Civic sat in their driveway, rarely used except for maintaining appearances. 40 minutes later, Devin entered Zenith Enterprises through the private elevator that led directly to the executive floor. Here, he transformed. The forgettable middle manager's clothing was replaced by a bespoke Tom Ford suit. His slightly slouched posture straightened to reveal his full 6'1" height. Even his voice deepened to the commanding baritone that had negotiated billion-dollar deals. "The board is already gathering," Laurel informed him, handing over a leather portfolio. At 35, she was the picture of efficiency in a tailored charcoal pantsuit, her copper hair pulled back in a severe bun. "Have they been told I'll actually attend in person?" "No, sir. They're expecting the usual video conference. Your physical presence should motivate them." Devin nodded. "Perfect." Few people had ever seen Preston Xavier Caldwell in person. The mysterious CEO conducted most business remotely, a quirk that had become legendary in business circles and had allowed Devin to build his double life. It had started 12 years ago when Devin founded Zenith. Wary from a previous relationship where he'd been used for his rising wealth, he created the Preston persona to protect himself. When he met Vanessa Montgomery at a charity gala 8 years ago, he was already worth billions but had perfected his average man facade. Vanessa had been dazzling, intelligent, ambitious, and seemingly genuine. Working as a marketing director, she'd impressed him with her drive. For once, Devin believed he'd found someone interested in him rather than his wealth. Their courtship had been swift and passionate. He maintained his middle manager cover, telling her he worked at Zenith in operations. Technically true. She never questioned his ability to afford their comfortable lifestyle, which he explained through family money and smart investments. They'd been happy at first. Devin had planned to reveal everything on their 5th anniversary, buying a stunning estate in preparation. But by then, something had changed. Vanessa's smiles became forced. Her eyes lingered less on him and more on luxury magazines. She started working late, her ambition seemingly morphing into status-seeking. So Devin waited, watching and wondering if his wife loved him at all. "The Montgomery acquisition," Laurel interrupted his thoughts. "It's Vanessa's company, isn't it?" Devin's expression remained impassive. "Yes. Blueprint Marketing will be folded into our digital division." "Does she know?" "Not yet." His voice was cold steel. "She'll find out today, along with everyone else." Blueprint had been Vanessa's escape plan. Devin was certain of it. 6 months ago, she'd left her job to start her own marketing firm, funded through what she called angel investors. Her company had quickly secured contracts with several mid-sized businesses. Too quickly. What she didn't know was that Devin had tracked every move. The angel investor was Nathaniel Palmer, Zenith's marketing director and Vanessa's lover for the past 8 months. Devin hadn't confronted them yet. Instead, he'd watched, gathering information, assessing the depth of their betrayal while formulating his response. Today marked the beginning of that response. "Sir," Laurel hesitated, "are you sure about this?" Devin looked at his loyal assistant, the only person who knew both sides of his life. 8 years ago, I made a mistake trusting someone who didn't deserve it. I won't make the same mistake again. He entered the boardroom, and 12 executives immediately stood. The shock on their faces at seeing the elusive CEO in person was quickly masked by professional composure. "Ladies and gentlemen," Devin announced, his voice commanding complete attention, "today we begin a new chapter for Zenith Enterprises." Behind the careful facade of Preston Xavier Caldwell, Devin Harlow's mind was already calculating his next move in a game his wife didn't even know they were playing. Chapter 2. Web of Deceit. Vanessa Harlow placed her Versace sunglasses on top of her head as she swept into Blueprint Marketing's downtown office. At 38, she maintained the lithe figure of a woman 10 years younger through rigorous Pilates and a restrictive diet. Her chestnut hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders, and her Louboutin heels clicked authoritatively on the polished concrete floors. "Morning, everyone," she called to her small but growing team. 6 months ago, Blueprint had been nothing but a dream and a business plan. Now they occupied a stylish office in the Arts District with 10 employees and a roster of promising clients. "Your coffee," Mrs. Harlow, her assistant, Trey Walsh, handed her precise latte. "Thank you, Trey. Any messages?" Mr. Palmer called. He said the proposal is ready for review and he'd like to meet for lunch. Vanessa smiled, a flush of excitement warming her cheeks. "Book us a table at Bellissimo. Tell him 12:30. She entered her corner office and closed the door, taking a moment to admire the space she'd created. Modern, elegant, ambitious, everything her home life wasn't. She glanced at the single-framed photo on her desk, her and Devin on their wedding day. She barely recognized either of them anymore. 7 years of marriage to a man with no ambition beyond his middle management position had slowly suffocated her. Devin was kind enough, stable enough, but he lacked the fire that drove Vanessa. He seemed content with their comfortable but unexceptional life, rebuffing her every suggestion that he aim higher, apply for promotions, or consider starting his own business. "You could be so much more," she told him countless times. His usual response was a shrug and some platitude about being happy with what they had. Vanessa dropped into her ergonomic chair and unlocked her computer. The Blueprint logo, her design, pulsed on the screen. This company was her salvation, her escape route from a marriage that had become a prison of mediocrity. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathaniel. "Can't wait to see you. I have news." Nathaniel Palmer had entered her life like a hurricane. As marketing director at Zenith Enterprises, he'd attended the same industry conference where Vanessa was representing her former employer. Their connection had been immediate, intellectual, professional, and intensely physical. Unlike Devin, Nathaniel understood ambition. He recognized her potential and, more importantly, valued it. Their affair had begun 3 weeks after that conference. Vanessa hadn't planned it. She'd never imagined herself as an unfaithful wife. But Nathaniel offered everything Devin didn't: excitement, passion, and a vision for the future. When Vanessa mentioned her dream of starting her own agency, Nathaniel hadn't hesitated. "I believe in you," he'd said, offering to invest personally and connect her with his network of clients. 6 months later, Blueprint was thriving, and Vanessa was planning her exit from her marriage. She just needed a few more major clients to ensure her financial independence. At 12:25, Vanessa entered Bellissimo, immediately spotting Nathaniel at their usual corner table. At 45, he cut an impressive figure in his tailored navy suit. His salt and pepper hair and confident smile had turned heads as she approached. "You look stunning," he greeted her, standing to kiss her cheek, professional enough for public, intimate enough for them. "And you look like you have good news," she replied, taking her seat. Nathaniel's smile widened. "Zenith is acquiring a smaller marketing firm to bolster their digital division. I've convinced the acquisitions team that we should outsource the transition management to an external agency specifically blueprint. Vanessa nearly spilled her water. That would be huge for us. The contract value must be 7 figures, Nathaniel confirmed. Enough to double your staff and move to bigger offices. How did you manage this? Won't people question the connection? No one knows about us, he assured her. And I've built a solid business case. The acquisition target specializes in traditional marketing. They need a digital-focused firm to manage integration. Blueprint is perfect. Vanessa reached across the table to squeeze his hand. This could change everything. With a contract this size, I could finally leave. Leave, Devin, Nathaniel finished for her. It's time, Vanessa. You deserve better than a man who's going nowhere. She nodded, a complex mixture of emotions washing over her. Despite everything, ending her marriage wouldn't be easy. I'll talk to him soon. I promise. Don't wait too long, Nathaniel cautioned. The contract will be announced Friday. Things will move quickly after that. As they finished lunch, discussing plans and possibilities, neither noticed the woman at the bar. Laurel Valentine sipped her sparkling water, her phone discreetly recording their entire conversation before she quietly left to report back to her boss. Later that evening, Vanessa arrived home to find Devin already there. Unusual for a Wednesday, when he typically worked late. You're home early, she commented, hanging her coat in the entryway. Devin looked up from his laptop at the kitchen table. Light day at the office. How was your day? There was something in his tone that made Vanessa pause, a subtle edge she couldn't quite identify. Fine. Busy with client proposals. Any interesting prospects? His eyes never left his screen. For a fleeting moment, Vanessa wondered if he knew something. She dismissed the thought. Devin was too unconnected, too uninvolved in her professional world to have any idea about her plans. Nothing worth boring you with, she replied, heading upstairs. I'm going to change. In their bedroom, Vanessa stared at her reflection in the full-length mirror. The woman looking back was successful, desirable, ambitious, everything she'd worked to become. She no longer fit in this house, in this marriage, with this man who had no vision for their future. Friday couldn't come soon enough. Once the Zenith contract was secured, she would finally tell Devin the truth about Blueprint success, about her dissatisfaction, about Nathaniel. She would finally be free. Downstairs, Devin closed his laptop, a cold smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Everything was proceeding exactly according to plan. Chapter 3. The Gathering Storm. Thunder rolled in the distance as Devin entered the exclusive Pinnacle Club on the 50th floor of Zenith Tower. The private elevator required both a key card and biometric scan, security measures that ensured the club remained accessible only to Seattle's ultra-elite. Here, the reclusive Preston Xavier Caldwell occasionally entertained business associates, though always in a private dining room rather than the main restaurant. Tonight, however, Devin had arrived as himself, his middle management attire exchanged for a subtle yet expensive charcoal suit that acknowledged his true status without broadcasting it. Roman Blackwell was already waiting at a corner table, nursing a glass of Macallan 25. At 65, Roman had been Devin's mentor since his early 20s, well before Zenith Enterprises existed. As Devin's former corporate law professor, then advisor, then friend, Roman was one of the few people who knew both Devin Harlow and Preston Caldwell were the same person. You look like hell, Roman greeted him, gesturing to the empty chair. Good to see you too, Devin replied, signaling the waiter for his usual bourbon. I assume this isn't a social call. Roman's shrewd eyes, still sharp behind designer frames, studied Devin's face. The acquisition paperwork looked solid. Blueprint will be absorbed with minimal disruption. This isn't about the business aspects. Devin's drink arrived, and he took a measured sip. It's about what happens after. Roman leaned back. The personal situation. Vanessa doesn't just want out of our marriage. She and Palmer have been systematically building Blueprint using Zenith resources and contacts. Palmer has steered 3 major clients their way while on Zenith's payroll. Corporate espionage. Roman nodded. Clean-cut termination case. The board would agree, but this goes beyond business. Devin's voice remained controlled, but his grip on the crystal tumbler tightened. I need to handle this thoroughly. Roman sighed, the weight of decades of friendship in the sound. Remember when you created the Preston persona? You were so determined not to let your wealth define your relationships. I remember, Devin said quietly. And look where it got me. What exactly do you have planned for them? Devin slid a folder across the table. I've transferred 40% of my Zenith shares to a new holding company. I want you to manage the legal aspects. Everything needs to be airtight. Roman flipped through the documents, his eyebrows rising. This is comprehensive. You're sure about this? Completely. Devin's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen to see a text from Laurel, P, and V meeting again. Audio surveillance active. Across town, Vanessa and Nathaniel sat in his sleek downtown condo, reviewing the final details of their plan over glasses of vintage Bordeaux. Once Blueprint secures the Zenith contract, we'll have established enough credibility to approach these major players, Nathaniel explained, indicating a list of potential clients. Within 6 months, you could triple your current revenue. Vanessa nodded, the excitement of their shared ambition warming her more than the wine. And once I'm free of Devin, we can take the next step, personally and professionally. Nathaniel covered her hand with his. I've waited my entire career for someone like you. Together, we could build something extraordinary. He'll be devastated, Vanessa said, a flicker of guilt crossing her features. Devin, I mean. For all his faults, he does love me. Love without ambition is just complacency, Nathaniel replied. You've outgrown him. It happens. I know. It's just, she hesitated. 7 years is a long time. 7 years of holding yourself back. Nathaniel refilled their glasses. Think about what you've accomplished in just 6 months away from his influence. Blueprint is already outperforming projections. Vanessa straightened, pushing away her momentary doubt. You're right. I need to focus on the future. Our future. Speaking of which, Nathaniel retrieved a small box from his desk drawer. I have something for you. Inside was a platinum key on a delicate chain. A key to your condo? Vanessa asked. My heart, my home, my future, Nathaniel confirmed with practiced sincerity. After Friday's announcement, after you've told Devin, move in with me. Start fresh. Vanessa let him fasten the necklace around her throat, the key resting cool against her skin. It's really happening, isn't it? Everything we've planned, he assured her. By this time next week, your new life begins. Neither of them noticed the tiny microphone hidden in the modern art sculpture Nathaniel had received as a client gift 2 weeks earlier. The following morning, Devin arrived at the Zenith executive floor at 5:30 a.m. Laurel was already at her desk, a comprehensive file waiting. Full surveillance transcript, she said without preamble, plus financial analysis of Blueprint's client acquisition patterns. Palmer has diverted approximately $2.3 million in potential Zenith business to them over 6 months. In the other matter, Laurel handed him a second, thinner file. The property transfer is complete. All utilities and services have been redirected as requested. Thank you. Devin's tone was professional, but the genuine appreciation in his eyes spoke to their years of trust. And the board meeting? Set for 10 a.m. Full attendance confirmed, including Palmer. Devin nodded, moving toward his office. Have security ready, but discreet. Sir, Laurel called after him. What about Mrs. Harlow? Will she be? She'll receive exactly what she deserves, Devin replied without turning around. Nothing more, nothing less. By 9:45, the Zenith boardroom had filled with executives in power suits, tablets ready, coffee cups steaming. Nathaniel Palmer sat confidently near the head of the table, reviewing presentation notes for his marketing department update. At precisely 10 a.m., the doors opened. The room fell silent as Preston Xavier Caldwell, a man many had never seen in person, strode in, followed by 2 security officers and Laurel Valentine. Good morning, Devin addressed the room, his Preston persona in full effect. Before we begin today's agenda, there's a security matter requiring immediate attention. He nodded to Laurel, who activated the room's display screen. Financial records, communication logs, and surveillance photos appeared, all featuring Nathaniel Palmer and Blueprint Marketing. Mr. Palmer, Devin's voice cut through the confused murmurs. You are being terminated effective immediately for corporate espionage, misappropriation of company resources, and breach of fiduciary duty. Nathaniel's face drained of color. This is ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about. You've diverted Zenith clients to Blueprint Marketing, a company owned by your romantic partner, while using Zenith resources to facilitate this transfer. You've also promised Blueprint insider information about our upcoming acquisition. Nathaniel stood abruptly. These accusations are thoroughly documented. Devin interrupted, gesturing to the screen where an audio recording began playing, Nathaniel's own voice describing the acquisition plans to Vanessa. The board members' expressions transformed from confusion to outrage. Corporate theft was the ultimate betrayal in their world. Security will escort you out, Devin continued calmly. Your access has been revoked. A detailed report has been provided to legal for potential criminal charges. As the security officers moved toward Nathaniel, the disgraced executive's shock transformed into fury. You can't do this. Who do you think you are? Devin merely watched as Nathaniel was escorted from the room, his protests echoing down the corridor. As for the acquisition, Devin addressed the remaining board members. We will proceed as planned, but Blueprint Marketing will no longer be involved in any capacity. In fact, he added, as of 9 a.m. this morning, Blueprint Marketing has been acquired by Zenith Enterprises through our subsidiary holding company. Back at Blueprint's offices, Vanessa was in the middle of a staff meeting when her assistant burst in. Mrs. Harlow, there are people from Zenith Enterprises here with legal documents. They're saying we've been acquired. Vanessa's world tilted. That's impossible. But the Zenith representatives were already entering, led by a severe-looking woman in a tailored suit. Mrs. Harlow? I'm Laurel Valentine, Chief of Staff to Preston Xavier Caldwell. I need you to review and sign these documents immediately. There must be some mistake, Vanessa protested, her voice shaking. We have no acquisition agreement with Zenith. Your investors signed the agreement this morning, Laurel replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. As a minority shareholder, you were outvoted. Vanessa grabbed her phone to call Nathaniel, but the call went straight to voicemail. She tried again with the same result. Mr. Palmer is no longer with Zenith Enterprises, Laurel informed her flatly. Now the documents, please. As the storm that had been threatening all morning finally broke outside, drenching Seattle in sheets of rain, Vanessa Harlow watched her carefully constructed dreams wash away in a flood of legal jargon and corporate power. At home that evening, she waited for Devin, rehearsing explanations and excuses. But he never arrived. Instead, her phone rang with an unfamiliar number. When she answered, her husband's voice came through, different somehow, colder and more authoritative than she'd ever heard it. Vanessa, don't expect me home tonight. Or any night. I believe tomorrow you'll be too busy dealing with Blueprint's transition to Zenith ownership to worry about our marriage. Devin, what are you talking about? How do you know about? Check your email. You'll find divorce papers waiting. I suggest you sign them without contest. It will be simpler for everyone. You can't just, but the line had already gone dead. Outside, lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating Vanessa's stunned face as she stood alone in the house that suddenly felt like it belonged to a stranger. Chapter 4. The Mask Slips. Rain pelted against the windows of the downtown penthouse as Devin loosened his tie and poured himself 3 fingers of bourbon. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Seattle's skyline, lights blurred by the downpour. This was his real home, not the modest suburban house where he'd played at being ordinary with Vanessa. His phone vibrated. 17 missed calls from his wife. A text message appeared. Where are you? We need to talk right now. Devin silenced the device and tossed it onto the leather sofa. Tonight, he would allow himself this moment of quiet rage, of controlled destruction. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Caldwell, Roman Blackwell, is here to see you, announced the security desk. Send him up. Minutes later, Roman entered the penthouse, shaking water from his overcoat. Quite the day you've had, he observed, accepting the glass Devin offered. I assume from your location that the marriage charade is officially over? She doesn't deserve any more of my time, Devin replied flatly. And yet, you've dedicated considerable resources to orchestrating her downfall. Roman settled into an armchair. The blueprint acquisition was unnecessarily complex from a business perspective. You could have simply fired Palmer and moved on. This isn't business. This is personal, which is precisely my concern. Roman's voice carried the weight of decades of friendship. Revenge rarely brings the satisfaction one hopes for. This isn't about satisfaction, Devin countered. It's about consequences. They made their choices. Now they face the results. A notification chimed on Devin's laptop. He opened it to find security camera footage from his suburban home. Vanessa pacing frantically, phone pressed to her ear, occasionally throwing items against the wall in frustration. You're still monitoring her, Roman noted. Knowledge is power. Devin closed the laptop. She betrayed me with my own employee, used my company's resources to build her escape plan, and was prepared to leave me with nothing but humiliation. Roman studied his friend's face. You loved her once. I loved who I thought she was. Devin's jaw tightened. That person never existed. The conversation was interrupted by Devin's phone ringing again. Not Vanessa this time, but Laurel. Sir, there's a situation at your residential address. Mrs. Harlow appears to be destroying property. Neighborhood security has been alerted by concerned neighbors. Let her, Devin replied coldly. Document everything for the divorce proceedings. After hanging up, he turned to Roman. Phase 1 is complete. Palmer is finished professionally. Blueprint is mine. Tomorrow, Phase 2 begins. And what exactly does that entail? Roman asked cautiously, dismantling every illusion they've built. Devin's smile didn't reach his eyes. Starting with Vanessa, learning exactly who she's been married to all these years. The following morning, Vanessa awoke on the living room sofa, surrounded by the aftermath of her rage. Broken picture frames, scattered papers, an overturned side table. Her head pounded from too much wine and too little sleep. 17 unanswered calls to Nathaniel. 23 to Devin. Neither man had responded. The doorbell rang, its chime sending sharp pain through her temples. She shuffled to the door, still wearing yesterday's wrinkled clothes, to find a courier holding a large envelope. Vanessa Harlow, he confirmed, handing over the package. Signature required. Inside was a thick document with a cover letter on a Zenith Enterprises letterhead. The opening paragraph froze her in place. Dear Mrs. Harlow, as per the directive of Preston Xavier Caldwell, CEO of Zenith Enterprises, this letter serves as formal notification that all personal belongings have been removed from the residence at 1742 Lakeside Drive, which is owned by Zenith Holdings, LLC. You are required to vacate the premises within 48 hours. This is insane, she muttered, flipping through pages of legal jargon. What does Zenith CEO have to do with my house? Her phone rang, an unknown number. She answered desperately. Devin, Mrs. Harlow, this is Laurel Valentine, Chief of Staff to Mr. Caldwell. I'm calling to confirm receipt of the documentation and to arrange a meeting between you and Mr. Caldwell this afternoon at 2 p.m. I don't want to meet some corporate robot, Vanessa snapped. I need to speak to my husband. That's precisely what this meeting will address, Laurel replied, unruffled. A car will collect you at 1:30. Professional attire is expected. Before Vanessa could protest further, the line went dead. Bewildered and furious, she showered and changed, trying repeatedly to reach Nathaniel. Each call went straight to voicemail. By the time the sleek black car arrived, her confusion had crystallized into determination. Someone would explain what was happening, and heads would roll for this intrusion into her personal life. The car delivered her to Zenith Tower, where a security officer escorted her directly to the executive elevator. 50th floor, he instructed, swiping a key card before stepping back. The doors opened onto an elegantly appointed reception area where Laurel Valentine waited, impeccable in a tailored gray suit. Mrs. Harlow, she greeted without warmth. Mr. Caldwell is ready for you. Vanessa followed her through double doors into a corner office with spectacular views of Elliott Bay. A man stood with his back to them, gazing out the windows. Sir, Mrs. Harlow has arrived, Laurel announced before quietly withdrawing. When the man turned, Vanessa's world collapsed beneath her. "Devin," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her husband stood before her, but not the Devin she knew. This man wore a custom suit that probably cost more than their car. His posture was different, confident, commanding. Even his expression had transformed from the placid agreeability she was accustomed to into something harder, more calculating. "Hello, Vanessa," he replied, his voice carrying an authority she'd never heard before. "Please sit down." "What is this?" She remained standing, her shock giving way to anger. "Some kind of joke. Why are you in Preston Caldwell's office?" "I'm Preston Caldwell." Devin, or Preston, moved to sit behind the massive desk. "That's always been true." Vanessa's legs weakened, forcing her into a chair. "That's not possible. You're a mid-level operations manager. You drive a Honda. We live in a 3-bedroom suburban house." "Correction, I owned a Honda, which was parked conspicuously in our driveway. I own this building, along with 16 others in the Seattle metropolitan area. And as of yesterday morning, I own Blueprint Marketing, including all its assets and client contracts." The calculated precision of his words struck Vanessa like physical blows. "Why?" she finally managed. "Why would you pretend to be ordinary? Why would you pretend to love me?" he countered, his voice dangerously soft. "We all wear masks, Vanessa. Mine was Preston Caldwell playing at being Devin Harlow. Yours was a devoted wife playing at being faithful." Vanessa felt the blood drain from her face. "You know about Nathaniel Palmer? Your affair? Your plan to build Blueprint using my company's resources and contacts? Your intention to leave me once you'd extracted everything useful?" His smile was terrifying in its calmness. "Yes, I know everything." "It wasn't like that," she protested weakly. "Then enlighten me." He leaned back, studying her with the detached interest of a scientist observing a specimen. "Tell me what it was like. You were distant, unambitious. We wanted different things. So you sought fulfillment in my employee's bed while using my company to fund your exit strategy." Each word was precisely measured, cutting. "How disappointed you must have been to discover your lover was terminated yesterday for corporate espionage." Vanessa surged to her feet. "You had no right." "I had every right." His voice remained calm, which somehow made it worse. "As CEO of Zenith Enterprises, I have a fiduciary responsibility to address theft of company resources. As your husband, I had a reasonable expectation of fidelity. This is why you've been so passive all these years," Vanessa realized, her anger building. "You were playing some sick game, testing me." "No game, Vanessa. I simply wanted someone who loved me for myself, not my wealth or position. Clearly, you couldn't even love the man you thought I was." The full magnitude of her situation began to register. "The house, owned by my holding company, as is the car you drive and most of the things you've enjoyed during our marriage. You can't just throw me out. I already have." His tone was final. "Your personal items are being packed and will be delivered to a storage facility. The access code will be texted to you. And Blueprint? My company. My company now." Devin, Preston, opened a folder on his desk. "Though I'll offer you a position if you'd like to stay on. Junior account manager seems appropriate given your actual qualifications." Vanessa felt tears of rage building. "I built that company with my resources, my clients, and my employees' assistance." He pushed a document across the desk. "Here are your options. A generous divorce settlement in exchange for your silence and cooperation, or a protracted legal battle you cannot win. I've retained the top 7 divorce attorneys in Washington state. Not because I need them all, but to ensure you can't hire them. 7 years of marriage, distilled into cold legal terms and financial calculations." The Preston before her bore no resemblance to the Devin she'd married, or thought she'd married. "You know, I was going to tell you everything on our 5th anniversary, he said, his tone softening slightly. "I had plans, a new house, travel, perhaps children. Then I noticed how you began to look at me, not with love, but with disappointment, like I was a project that had failed to meet expectations." For a moment, Vanessa glimpsed the man she'd once loved, vulnerable, genuine. Then his expression hardened again. "So I waited watching to see if you would choose me despite my apparent mediocrity. Instead, you chose Nathaniel and the illusion of status he offered. You lied to me for 7 years, Vanessa countered, finding her voice. You created a false marriage based on deception. And yet, only one of us broke our vows. Devin stood, signaling the end of the meeting. Review the settlement offer. You have 48 hours to decide. As Laurel appeared to escort her out, Vanessa turned back. Does it make you feel powerful? Destroying everything I've worked for? No, Devin replied honestly. But it does make us even. You tried to dismantle my life. I simply did it better. In the elevator descending from the executive floor, Vanessa leaned against the wall, her mind racing through 7 years of memories, recontextualizing every moment with this new, horrifying knowledge. The modest gifts, the budget vacations, the arguments about ambition, all part of an elaborate test she'd failed without knowing she was being tested. When the doors opened on the ground floor, she stepped out into a world that no longer made sense. Her phone buzzed with a text from a blocked number, storage facility code 9247. All personal items will be delivered by 5 p.m. Car service terminated effective immediately. Vanessa Harlow, soon-to-be ex-wife of Preston Xavier Caldwell, one of the wealthiest men in Seattle, stood on the sidewalk in the rain, without a car, without a company, without a home, wondering how she would even get back to pack her remaining belongings. And somewhere high above, Devin watched through the window, his reflection superimposed over the city he commanded, wondering why victory felt so empty. Chapter 5, Countermeasures. Nathaniel Palmer's downtown condo had always been a showcase of his success. Minimalist furniture, abstract art, floor-to-ceiling windows with unobstructed city views. Now, at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday, when he should have been in his corner office at Zenith, it felt like a prison. He paced the living room, smartphone pressed to his ear. Gregory, I don't care what time it is in New York. This is an emergency. He ran a hand through his usually perfect hair, now disheveled from a sleepless night. I need to know my legal options. Gregory Fitzgerald, his lawyer and former college roommate, sounded irritatingly calm. Based on what you've told me, Nat, your options are limited. Zenith has documentation of you diverting clients to Blueprint while on their payroll. That's textbook corporate espionage. It was business development. Nathaniel protested. Vanessa's company complimented Zenith's services. I was creating synergy. While sleeping with Blueprint's owner and hiding your relationship from your employer, Gregory countered. No judge will buy that defense. A sharp knock interrupted them. Nathaniel moved to the peephole to see Vanessa standing in the hallway, looking like she'd been through a war. I'll call you back, he told Gregory, opening the door. Vanessa pushed past him without greeting. Did you know? She demanded, whirling to face him. Did you know who my husband really was? Nathaniel blinked in confusion. What are you talking about? Devin, she spat the name. My middle manager, no ambition husband? He's Preston Xavier Caldwell, the CEO of Zenith. Your boss. Nathaniel felt his knees weaken. He sank onto the sofa, mind racing. That's impossible. Preston Caldwell is... I've never even met him in person. He's a recluse who runs the company remotely. Well, I just met him. In his office. Wearing a suit that costs more than my car. Vanessa's laugh held a hysterical edge. 7 years, Nate. 7 years I've been married to a billionaire pretending to be ordinary. This changes everything, Nathaniel murmured, his strategic mind already calculating angles. If Devin is Preston, then this isn't about corporate espionage at all. It's personal. He targeted us because of our relationship. He's destroying everything. Vanessa continued, pacing the room. Blueprint is gone. The house is his. Even my car has been repossessed. I had to take a rideshare here. Nathaniel's phone buzzed with an email notification from his bank. He opened it, then felt the blood drain from his face. My accounts are frozen. All of them. How can he do that? A corporate fraud investigation gives them the right to freeze assets while they determine what was illegally acquired. Nathaniel's voice turned bitter. Your husband, or whatever we call him now, is making sure I can't even hire decent legal representation. Vanessa collapsed into a chair opposite him. He offered me a settlement. sign the divorce papers, take the money, disappear quietly. How much? 5 million, plus a condo in Belltown and a monthly stipend for 2 years. Nathaniel gave a low whistle. That's actually quite generous. It's hush money, Vanessa corrected. My silence in exchange for financial security. Take it, Nathaniel advised immediately. We need capital if we're going to fight back. Fight back? Against a billionaire CEO who apparently has been 10 steps ahead of us from the beginning. Vanessa's voice cracked. He owns the company you built for me. He's frozen your assets. What exactly do you think we can do against that kind of power? Nathaniel moved to kneel before her, taking her hands in his. Listen to me. Men like Preston Caldwell, or Devin, whatever he calls himself, have one critical weakness: their reputation. It's everything to them. What are you suggesting? We can't fight him with money or legal maneuvers, but we can fight him with information. Nathaniel's eyes gleamed with renewed purpose. I may have lost my position, but I still have friends at Zenith. People who owe me favors. For what purpose? Exposing him as a liar? He'd just spin it to make us look worse. Not exposing him, Nathaniel corrected. Leveraging what we know. If Preston Caldwell has been living a double life for years, there must be business implications. Shareholders who weren't informed. Board members kept in the dark. Vanessa's expression shifted as she caught his meaning. Blackmail? I prefer to call it negotiation. Nathaniel smiled thinly. Take the settlement. Get the money. Meanwhile, I'll activate my network. We need to find his vulnerability. Everyone has one. He'll come after us even harder. Only if he knows we're coming. Nathaniel squeezed her hands. Trust me, Vanessa. This isn't over. Across town, in Devin's penthouse office, Laurel Valentine provided her morning briefing. Palmer's accounts have been frozen as directed. The security team reports Mrs. Harlow arrived at his residence approximately 40 minutes ago. Devin nodded, reviewing financial projections for the newly acquired Blueprint client list. Any unusual communications from either of them? Palmer contacted his attorney in New York at 9:02 a.m. Standard panic call about his legal options. Nothing actionable. Laurel hesitated. Sir, if I may speak freely? Always. This level of surveillance exceeds standard corporate security protocols, even for fraud cases. The personal monitoring especially, it has potential legal implications. Devin looked up, his expression unreadable. Your concern is noted. Discontinue the direct surveillance on Palmer's residence. Maintain standard digital monitoring only. And Mrs. Harlow? A muscle twitched in Devin's jaw. Standard divorce protocols. No special measures. Laurel nodded, making notes. The settlement offer you extended is quite generous given the circumstances. It's not about the money, Devin replied. It's about efficiency. A quick, quiet divorce serves my purposes better than a protracted battle. And if she doesn't accept, she will. Devin's certainty was absolute. Vanessa is practical above all else. She'll calculate her odds and take the sure thing. After Laurel departed, Devin allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. The familiar emptiness that had haunted him since discovering Vanessa's betrayal hadn't diminished with his retribution. If anything, it had deepened. His intercom buzzed. Mr. Caldwell, Roman Blackwell, is calling. Put him through. Devin switched the call to speaker. I've just received an interesting call. Roman's voice filled the office. Gregory Fitzgerald, Palmer's attorney, reached out to feel me out about potential settlement terms. Devin frowned. They're looking to settle the corporate espionage case? That's unexpected. Not exactly. They're fishing for information about you. Specifically, the legality of your dual identity arrangement. There's nothing illegal about privacy, Devin countered. Many wealthy individuals use proxies and alternate identities. True, but few CEOs of publicly traded companies maintain elaborate double lives without board knowledge. They're exploring whether there's a disclosure violation they could leverage. Devin's expression darkened. They're looking for blackmail material. Precisely. Roman's tone grew serious. Be careful, Devin. You've wounded them, but that makes them dangerous. Desperate people take desperate actions. Let them try, Devin replied coldly. I've planned for every contingency. Have you? Roman challenged. You plan for their betrayal, their professional downfall, their financial ruin. But have you planned for what happens if they decide to burn everything down, including themselves, just to hurt you? The question lingered in the air after the call ended. Devin turned to his window, gazing out at the Seattle skyline, considering the implications. Nathaniel Palmer was ambitious and calculating, but was he vengeful enough to self-destruct just to inflict damage? And Vanessa, 7 years of marriage, and Devin realized he might never have truly known her at all. His phone chimed with a text from an unfamiliar number. We need to talk. Privately. Not as Preston and Vanessa. As the people we really are. V. Devin stared at the message, torn between suspicion and an unwelcome flicker of something he refused to acknowledge as hope. In a coffee shop 12 blocks from Zenith Tower, Vanessa sat opposite Meredith Spencer, Zenith's former head of public relations who had left the company 6 months earlier. I appreciate you meeting me, Vanessa said, her designer sunglasses concealing red-rimmed eyes. Meredith stirred her latte thoughtfully. Nathaniel was always good to me during my time at Zenith. When he said you needed advice, I couldn't refuse. She leaned forward. Though I admit, I'm curious about what kind of PR disaster requires my specific expertise. What if I told you Preston Xavier Caldwell has been living a double life for years? That he created a fictitious identity, married a woman under false pretenses, and has been running Zenith through an elaborate deception? Meredith's eyes widened slightly. I'd say that sounds like quite a story, and potentially quite valuable to certain media outlets. Valuable enough to counter a corporate espionage charge, to restore a reputation. Possibly. Meredith chose her words carefully. But corporate espionage is straightforward. Legal documents, financial trails, clear wrongdoing. A CEO's personal eccentricities are squishier. Without evidence, it's just gossip. I have evidence, Vanessa assured her. 7 years of it. Then we need to talk strategy. Meredith pulled out a notebook. The first rule of crisis management: control the narrative. Whoever tells their story first has the advantage. As the two women huddled over their coffee, planning a potential media offensive, neither noticed the man at the next table, apparently absorbed in his laptop, but covertly capturing every word of their conversation. 3 hours later, Devin received a comprehensive transcript, along with a surveillance photo of the meeting. His face remained impassive as he read Vanessa's plans to expose his double life to major business publications and tabloids alike. Predictable, he murmured, forwarding the information to Roman with instructions to prepare a counter-strategy. Then he replied to Vanessa's text. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., the house. Come alone. In the gathering darkness of the following evening, Devin's Audi R8 pulled into the driveway of the suburban home he'd shared with Vanessa for 7 years. For the first time in their marriage, he arrived as himself. Not the manufactured middle manager persona, but not quite the corporate titan either. Something in between, perhaps closer to the truth than either extreme. Vanessa's rideshare dropped her off minutes later. She wore a simple black dress, her hair pulled back, her expression guarded as she approached. Devin unlocked the door wordlessly, allowing her to enter first. The house stood in a strange limbo, half-packed, personal items in boxes, picture frames removed from walls leaving lighter rectangles on the paint. Why here? Vanessa asked, breaking the silence as they stood in the living room where they'd spent countless evenings, now transformed into something unfamiliar. Neutral territory, Devin replied. Neither Preston's domain nor completely yours. It was never really mine, was it? There was no accusation in her tone, just resigned acceptance. That depends on how you define ownership. Devin remained standing, maintaining distance between them. You want to talk? I'm listening. Vanessa took a deep breath. I met with Meredith Spencer yesterday. I know. She nodded, unsurprised. Of course you do. You probably have the entire conversation transcribed and analyzed. I do. Then you know what I'm capable of doing. She met his gaze directly. I can destroy Preston Caldwell's carefully constructed image. I can turn your life into a media circus. You could try, Devin acknowledged. But before you commit to that path, you should know that I've already contacted the board of directors. They've been fully briefed on my dual identity arrangement and the reasons behind it. I've also prepared statements for major news outlets, complete with documentation of your affair and Nathaniel's corporate espionage. Vanessa's confident posture faltered slightly, always 10 steps ahead. I prefer to be prepared. Devon's voice softened fractionally. But that's not why you wanted to meet, is it? To threaten me with exposure we both know won't work. For a moment, Vanessa's carefully maintained composure cracked. I wanted to understand. Why the deception? Why marry me under false pretenses? Was it all just some twisted experiment? The question hung between them, weighted with 7 years of shared history, now cast in doubt. When we met, Devon began carefully. I'd already been living as two different people for years. Preston Caldwell was a necessity for business, but that identity came with complications. People wanting access, influence, shortcuts. Previous relationships failed because I could never be certain if I was valued or just my wealth. So you created Devon Harlow. I didn't create him. I revealed parts of myself that Preston keeps hidden. Vulnerability, imperfection, normalcy. Devon moved to the window, looking out at the quiet suburban street. When you agreed to marry Devon, a man with a modest income and ordinary prospects, I believed I'd found someone who valued me for myself. I did love you, Vanessa said quietly. At the beginning, what changed? You were complacent, content with mediocrity. She shook her head. I kept waiting for you to want more, to strive for something greater. Instead, you seemed almost passive about life, like you were just going through the motions. Because Preston was where I channeled my ambition, Devon admitted. Devon was my respite, not my battlefield. We never really knew each other at all, did we? Vanessa's laugh held no humor. I fell in love with half a person, and you fell in love with someone who only existed in relation to that half. Devon turned to face her. Where does that leave us now? With a choice. Vanessa straightened, recovering her composure. We can destroy each other publicly, creating a spectacle that benefits neither of us. Or we can end this quietly, salvaging what we can from the wreckage. The settlement offer stands, Devon said. It's fair, perhaps more than fair, given the circumstances. And Blueprint? My company will be absorbed into Zenith's digital division. The name and brand will be retired. Vanessa flinched slightly at the finality of his words. And Nathaniel? That depends on him. Devon's tone hardened. His accounts remain frozen, pending investigation. If he pursues legal action or media exposure, we'll prosecute to the fullest extent. If he disappears quietly, we may be more lenient. You've thought of everything, Vanessa observed, a hint of admiration mixing with her resentment. Not everything. Devon's gaze held hers. I never anticipated loving someone who could betray me so completely, or feeling this hollow after winning. The unexpected vulnerability in his admission hung between them, a bridge neither was willing to cross. I'll sign the papers, Vanessa finally said. No media, no lawsuits, no further contact. A clean break. Thank you. The words sounded inadequate even to Devon's ears. As Vanessa moved toward the door, she paused, turning back one last time. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just for the affair, but for never really seeing you, whichever version was the real one. Devon remained silent, watching as she walked out of the house and out of his life. Only after her rideshare disappeared down the street did he allow himself to whisper the truth to the empty room. I'm not sure I knew which version was real either. Chapter 6. The Breaking Point. The Seattle skyline glittered beneath a rare, cloudless night as Nathaniel Palmer stood on his condo balcony, tumbler of scotch in hand, watching his life unravel in real time. His phone lay on the glass table beside him, open to an email from his attorney that confirmed his worst fears. Zenith's legal team had compiled enough evidence to pursue criminal charges for corporate espionage and intellectual property theft. The sliding door opened behind him. Vanessa stepped out, wrapped in one of his cashmere throws. 3 weeks had passed since her confrontation with Devon, with Preston, in their former home. 3 weeks of living in Nathaniel's increasingly tense domicile, watching his confidence erode with each new legal threat. Gregory called again, she said quietly. He wants your decision by morning. Nathaniel drained his glass. There is no decision. The plea deal is the only option unless I want to risk prison. The terms were brutally simple. Nathaniel would admit to corporate espionage in a private settlement, agree to a 5-year non-compete clause covering the entire West Coast, and forfeit his Zenith stock options valued at approximately $3.7 million. In exchange, Zenith would not pursue criminal charges. What about your contacts in New York? Silicon Valley? Vanessa pressed. Surely someone would hire you based on your track record. My track record now includes corporate theft. Nathaniel's laugh was hollow. Besides, Preston Devon, whatever he calls himself, has made sure word has spread throughout the industry. I'm toxic. Vanessa leaned against the railing, her face illuminated by the city lights below. I signed the divorce papers yesterday. The settlement cleared this morning. Nathaniel turned sharply. You took his deal? Without telling me. $5 million, Nate. A condo in Belltown. Financial security. She met his accusatory gaze steadily. What was I supposed to do? Keep fighting a war we can't win. We agreed to stand together, to find leverage. And what leverage have we found? Vanessa challenged. Meredith can't help us. Your attorney says we're screwed. Meanwhile, your accounts are still frozen, and we're burning through your remaining cash reserves paying legal fees. Nathaniel slammed his glass down. So that's it? You're abandoning our plans? Abandoning me? I'm being realistic. Vanessa's voice hardened. My husband, ex-husband, is worth billions, controls one of the largest tech companies in the Northwest, and has apparently been playing chess while we've been playing checkers from the beginning. And now you're taking his blood money. I'm securing my future. Vanessa wrapped the throw tighter around her shoulders. Something you should consider doing instead of drowning in scotch and revenge fantasies. Nathaniel stared at her, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. You're exactly like him, aren't you? Calculating. Cold. Always looking for the advantage. Maybe that's why we were married for 7 years. Vanessa turned to go back inside, then paused. Sign the plea deal, Nate. Take what's being offered. Then we can start rebuilding. We? He echoed incredulously. You think there's still a we after you've capitulated to him? That depends on whether you're smart enough to recognize when you're beaten. With that, she disappeared into the condo, leaving Nathaniel alone with the night and his dwindling options. Inside, Vanessa retreated to the guest bathroom where she'd been sleeping for the past week as Nathaniel's drinking and paranoia had intensified. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number she'd memorized from the settlement paperwork. Valentine answered the crisp, professional voice of Devon's chief of staff. It's Vanessa Harlow. I need to speak with him. A brief pause. 1 moment. Seconds later, Devon's voice came through. This is unexpected. Palmer is falling apart, Vanessa said without preamble. The plea deal, the asset freeze, the industry blacklisting, it's working. Maybe too well. Explain. He's drinking heavily, becoming erratic, making threats. Vanessa kept her voice low. I'm concerned about what he might do if pushed further. That sounds like a personal problem, not a business one. It becomes your business problem if he decides he has nothing left to lose. Vanessa took a deep breath. I'm not asking you to stop. Just ease up slightly. Let some of his liquid assets free so he can pay his bills. Give him a path forward, however narrow. A long silence followed. Why are you telling me this? I thought you two were united against me. I signed the divorce papers. I took the settlement. I made my choice. Vanessa closed her eyes, exhaustion evident in her voice. Despite everything, I don't want to see him destroyed completely. Or perhaps you're playing both sides, Devon suggested, his tone neutral, warning me about his instability while encouraging it behind the scenes. Believe what you want. I've done what I can. Vanessa ended the call before he could respond. In his penthouse office, Devon stared at the silent phone, conflicting emotions warring within him. Victory should have felt sweeter than this. Seeing his adversaries crumble, watching Vanessa choose self-preservation over loyalty to her lover. Instead, a nagging emptiness persisted, along with an unwelcome whisper of doubt. Was that Mrs. Harlow? Laurel asked from the doorway, a stack of contracts in her arms. Yes. Devon set the phone down. She suggests Palmer is becoming unstable under pressure. That aligns with our intelligence. Laurel placed the contracts on his desk. He missed his last 2 appointments with his attorney. Building security reports he hasn't left his condo in 4 days. Release half of his personal checking account funds, Devin instructed after a moment's consideration. Enough to cover basic living expenses, nothing more. And postpone the plea deal deadline by 48 hours. Laurel raised an eyebrow, but made a note without comment. Not out of mercy, Devin clarified, more to himself than to her. Strategic de-escalation. We want him broken, not desperate. Of course, sir. Laurel hesitated. There's one other matter. The board is requesting your presence at the quarterly investor presentation next week. In person, not via video conference. Devin frowned. Since the revelation of his dual identity to the board, they've been pushing for greater transparency, more public appearances. Schedule it, but minimal press, controlled access. After Laurel departed, Devin turned to the wall of windows overlooking the city. The irony wasn't lost on him. His quest for revenge had compromised the carefully constructed privacy that had defined his life for over a decade. Preston Caldwell would need to step out of the shadows, become more than a name and a reputation. His phone buzzed with a text from Roman. Dinner tonight? We need to discuss the Richardson contract. Devin replied with a simple affirmative, grateful for the distraction of routine business matters. Across town, Nathaniel paced his condo living room, phone pressed to his ear. You don't understand, Gregory. This isn't just about legal strategy anymore. This is personal, which is precisely why you need to step back and think rationally, his attorney countered. The deal they're offering is harsh, but fair, given the evidence they've compiled. Fighting this will only. They froze my accounts, blacklisted me industry-wide, and now they're dictating terms? Nathaniel interrupted, voice rising. Meanwhile, Preston Caldwell, or Devin Harlow, or whatever he calls himself, walks away unscathed after deceiving everyone for years. Nat, listen to yourself. You're talking about one of the most powerful businessmen in Seattle, a man with virtually unlimited resources and a legitimate grievance against you. So, I should just surrender? Let him win. Gregory's sigh carried through the phone. This isn't about winning or losing anymore. It's about survival. Take the deal, move somewhere new, rebuild. You're too smart to throw your life away on a vendetta. After hanging up, Nathaniel noticed Vanessa watching him from the hallway. Eavesdropping now. Hard not to overhear when you're shouting. She moved into the living room, maintaining distance between them. Gregory's right. It's time to accept reality. Reality? Nathaniel laughed bitterly. Which version? The one where I'm the villain and Preston Caldwell is the wronged husband? Or the truth that he manipulated everyone, including you, for years? Both can be true simultaneously, Vanessa said quietly. He deceived me about his identity. We betrayed his trust. No one's hands are clean here. Nathaniel stalked to the bar cart, pouring another scotch despite the early hour. Check your bank account. You'll find your settlement has cleared. 5 million pieces of silver for your cooperation. Don't do this, Nate. Vanessa's voice softened. Don't turn me into the enemy. We can still salvage something from this mess. Can we? He turned to face her, tumbler clutched too tightly in his hand. Because from where I'm standing, you've already chosen your side. Practical Vanessa, always calculating the best angle, the safest path. That's not fair, isn't it? You slept with me while married to him. Now you're taking his money while claiming to stand by me. Nathaniel's eyes narrowed. How do I know you're not reporting everything back to him? Maybe that's part of your settlement agreement. Keep tabs on the loose cannon. Vanessa's expression hardened. You're drunk and paranoid. This conversation is pointless. As she turned to leave, Nathaniel grabbed her arm. Did you ever really care about me at all? Or was I just your ticket to freedom from a mediocre marriage? Let go of me. Her voice was ice. Answer the question. Yes, I cared about you. Vanessa wrenched her arm free. But right now, I barely recognize you. Something inside Nathaniel snapped. You know what the worst part is? Not losing my job or my reputation. It's realizing that nothing was real. Not your love for me. Not your marriage to him. You're both just users, manipulating people to get what you want. Vanessa's palm connected with his cheek, the crack of the slap echoing in the silence that followed. For several heartbeats, they stared at each other, mutual recognition of a point of no return. "I'm leaving," she finally said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "You need help, Nate. Professional help. Running back to the billionaire already?" His smile was ugly, eyes fever-bright. "Or just to his money?" "Goodbye, Nathaniel." She moved toward the bedroom to collect her things. "This isn't over," he called after her. "He doesn't get to destroy me and walk away. Neither do you." Vanessa paused, turning back with a mixture of pity and fear. "It is over. The only question is how much more damage you'll do to yourself before you accept that." 2 hours later, Vanessa sat in a pristine hotel suite, her hastily packed suitcases stacked by the door. The settlement had specified a condo in Belltown, but the paperwork was still being processed. For now, the Four Seasons would do, an ironic return to luxury after weeks in Nathaniel's increasingly chaotic apartment. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I know what you did. Both of you will pay. Check your email." Seconds later, an email arrived containing a single video file. Vanessa's blood ran cold as she played it. A recording of her phone conversation with Devin from the previous night, captured by what must have been spyware on her device. "Betrayed twice," read the accompanying message. "First your husband, now your lover. You really are consistent, Vanessa." With shaking hands, she called Devin. "Yes," he answered, clearly in the middle of something. "Palmer has gone completely off the rails," she said without preamble. "He's been monitoring my calls. He recorded our conversation." A beat of silence. "What exactly does he have?" "Me warning you about his instability. He's interpreting it as a betrayal." "Where are you now?" "Four Seasons. Room 1142. I left his apartment a few hours ago." "Stay there. I'll send security." Devin's voice was all business. "Has he made any specific threats?" "Just vague ones. But he's not rational anymore, Devin. This isn't about money or reputation now. It's about revenge. I'm familiar with the concept." The cold edge in his tone sent a chill through her. "Forward me everything he's sent you. Don't respond to him directly." After hanging up, Vanessa sat on the edge of the king-size bed, staring at her reflection in the mirror across the room. The woman looking back was almost unrecognizable. Designer clothes replaced by comfortable basics, perfect makeup abandoned, eyes shadowed with exhaustion and fear. 7 weeks ago, she'd been Vanessa Harlow, wife of an unambitious middle manager, secretly planning her escape to a new life of independence and passion. Now she was Vanessa Harlow, soon-to-be ex-wife of a billionaire CEO, hiding in a hotel room from her increasingly unstable former lover. How quickly the illusion of control had shattered. At Zenith Tower, Devin reviewed the materials Vanessa had forwarded, the recorded call, the threatening messages, the timeline of Palmer's deterioration. The clinical detachment he'd maintained throughout this ordeal was becoming difficult to sustain. What had begun as calculated retribution had evolved into something messier, less controlled. "Laurel," he called over the intercom. "Contact security. I want a detail assigned to the Four Seasons, room 1142. Then give me everything we have on Palmer's recent communications, movements, financials, anything that might indicate his next move." "Yes, sir. And shall I alert the authorities about the threats?" Devin hesitated. Police involvement would create public records, potential media attention. "Not yet. Let's handle this internally for now." As night fell over Seattle, 3 people remained awake, locked in a triangle of tension and consequence. Vanessa in her hotel room, jumping at every sound in the corridor. Devin in his penthouse office, reviewing security protocols and contingency plans. And Nathaniel, hunched over his laptop in his darkened condo, composing an email to Zenith's board of directors with a subject line that would ensure its immediate attention. Preston Xavier Caldwell's criminal fraud and SEC violations. What you need to know. The chess game had become a knife fight, and blood would inevitably be drawn. Chapter 7. Desperate Measures. Dawn broke over Seattle with a muted glow of early autumn light filtering through persistent cloud cover. In his penthouse, Devin had not slept. The night had been consumed by emergency conferences, first with Zenith's legal team, then with Roman and the company's head of security, finally with select board members whose support would be crucial in the coming storm. Nathaniel Palmer's email to the board had been comprehensive, meticulously sourced, and potentially devastating. While living a double life wasn't illegal in itself, Palmer had identified several instances where the deception potentially crossed into securities fraud territory. Board meetings where critical information might have been withheld, SEC filings with arguably misleading leadership structures, shareholder communications that obscured the true nature of the company's management. The email hadn't just gone to the board. Carbon copied were 3 financial journalists, known for aggressive corporate accountability reporting, 2 SEC officials, and Zenith's 5 largest institutional investors. How bad is it? Devin asked Roman, who sat across from him reviewing the preliminary legal analysis. Bad enough, Roman replied, removing his glasses to rub the bridge of his nose. Nothing definitively criminal, but enough regulatory gray areas to trigger investigations. The appearance of impropriety can be as damaging as actual wrongdoing in the capital markets. And Palmer? Do we know where he is? Laurel, who had been coordinating the security team's efforts, shook her head. He left his condo at 3:17 a.m. carrying a small suitcase. Hasn't returned. His phone is either off or the battery has been removed. And Vanessa? Still at the Four Seasons under security surveillance. No contact from Palmer. Devin moved to the window, watching the city come alive beneath him. The carefully constructed duality of his life, the separation between Devin Harlow and Preston Caldwell, had been his protection for years. Now, it was unraveling with astonishing speed, threatening not just his privacy, but everything he'd built. We need to get ahead of this, he decided, turning back to face his crisis team. Roman, prepare a comprehensive disclosure statement acknowledging my dual identity, but contextualizing it as a privacy measure, not a deceptive practice. Laurel, schedule an emergency board meeting for noon. Full attendance, in person, no exceptions. And Palmer? Roman asked. Find him, Devin's voice hardened. Whatever resources it takes. He's transitioned from a nuisance to an active threat. As his team dispersed to execute their assignments, Devin's phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. We need to talk. Not over the phone. He considered ignoring it, focusing on the business crisis rather than the personal one. But something, intuition perhaps, or the remnants of 7 years of connection, made him respond. Zenith Tower. Private entrance. 1 hour. When Vanessa arrived, she appeared startlingly different from the polished, confident woman who had occupied the same space weeks earlier. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her designer clothing had been replaced by jeans and a sweater. Thank you for seeing me, she said, following him into his private office. I assume this is about Palmer's email. Devin remained standing, maintaining physical and emotional distance. You've seen it then? Vanessa nodded. He sent me a copy at 4 a.m. with a message. The first volley has been fired. Do you know where he is? No. He's not answering calls or texts. She placed her phone on his desk. But he's still monitoring my devices somehow. That's why I needed to meet in person. Devin studied her, assessing the risk of trusting anything she said. What exactly do you want, Vanessa? To help. She met his gaze steadily. Nathaniel is dangerously unbalanced right now. This vendetta against you, against us, has consumed him. I might be able to reach him, talk him down. Why would you want to? Because this has gone far enough. Vanessa's voice cracked slightly. Lives are being destroyed. Careers ruined. For what? Pride? Revenge. You seemed comfortable enough with revenge when you were planning to expose my identity to the media, Devin reminded her coldly. That was before I understood the full scope of the damage. She took a deep breath. Look, I know you have no reason to trust me. I betrayed our marriage. I conspired against you. But I'm trying to do the right thing now. Before Devin could respond, Laurel entered with tablet in hand. Sir, we've located Palmer. He checked into the Olympic Hotel under an alias an hour ago. Security has visual confirmation. Thank you. Devin turned back to Vanessa. It seems we found your former partner. Let me talk to him, Vanessa urged. Before your security team or the authorities intervene. He might listen to me. And why would I trust you to do that rather than warn him? Because contrary to what you both seem to believe, I'm not just a manipulative opportunist. Vanessa's eyes flashed with genuine anger. Yes, I made terrible choices. Yes, I betrayed you. But I'm trying to prevent further destruction now. Devin studied her for a long moment, weighing variables, calculating risks. You'll wear a wire. Security will be nearby. One chance, that's all you get. Fine. Vanessa nodded, relief evident in her posture. When? Now. Devin turned to Laurel. Make the arrangements. I want this contained before the board meeting. 40 minutes later, Vanessa stood outside room 847 at the Olympic Hotel, a discreet earpiece connecting her to Devin and his security team positioned throughout the corridor and adjacent rooms. She took a deep breath and knocked. Seconds passed with no response. She knocked again, more insistently. Nate, it's me. I know you're in there. The door opened a crack, security chains still engaged. Nathaniel's bloodshot eyes peered through the gap. How did you find me? You copied me on your email, remember? I figured you'd want to watch the fallout from somewhere comfortable. Vanessa kept her voice calm. Can we talk? After a moment's hesitation, he closed the door, unlatched the chain, and reopened it wider. Come in, but leave your phone outside. I didn't bring it. Vanessa entered the suite, noting the laptop surrounded by printouts on the desk, the half-empty bottle of scotch, the rumpled bed where he'd clearly been working through the night. You look terrible. Destroying a billionaire is exhausting work. Nathaniel's smile was brittle, but effective. The board is in panic mode. 2 journalists have already called for statements. By market close, Preston Caldwell's empire will be cracking at the foundations. And what will that accomplish, Nate? Besides mutual destruction? Justice. He poured himself another drink with unsteady hands. He tried to erase me professionally. I'm returning the favor. Vanessa moved closer, careful to keep her tone non-confrontational. The SEC investigation you're trying to trigger will take months, possibly years. Meanwhile, your legal problems remain. Your accounts are still frozen. Your reputation is still damaged. Worth it. Nathaniel took a long swallow of scotch. You should see his face when the mighty Preston Xavier Caldwell is led out of Zenith Tower in handcuffs. That's not going to happen, and you know it. Vanessa reached for his arm. He has the best lawyers in the country, the resources to fight this indefinitely. All you're doing is ensuring your own downfall. Nathaniel jerked away from her touch. Why are you defending him? After everything he did to you, I'm not defending him. I'm trying to save you from yourself. Vanessa's frustration crept into her voice. This obsession is destroying you, Nate. Obsession? He laughed harshly. That's rich coming from you. Tell me, did he send you here? Is this another part of your settlement agreement? Play the concerned ex-lover. Talk me down. No one sent me. The lie came smoothly, necessary in the moment. I'm here because I care what happens to you, despite everything. Nathaniel studied her face, doubt and desperation warring in his expression. If you cared, you wouldn't have chosen his money over me. I chose survival, Vanessa corrected. Something you should consider. It's not too late to negotiate, to find a way out that doesn't end with you penniless and unemployable. You mean surrender. Nathaniel turned away, moving to the window to stare out at the Seattle skyline, Zenith Tower visible in the distance. I can't do that. Not anymore. Then what's your endgame here? What's the best possible outcome you're hoping for? Him ruined. You. He hesitated, glancing back at her. You free from his influence. Vanessa felt a chill at the intensity in his gaze. I am free. I've signed the divorce papers. I've taken the settlement. That chapter is closed. Is it? Nathaniel moved toward her with sudden purpose. Or are you still his puppet? His spy? Before she could react, he grabbed her arm, his fingers digging painfully into her flesh. What is this? A wire? A tracker? His free hand moved to her collar, yanking it aside to reveal the small microphone taped beneath her collarbone. You lying bitch, he whispered, the betrayal in his eyes hardening into something dangerous. You never stopped working for him, did you? In a monitoring room down the hall, Devin tensed as the audio feed captured Nathaniel's discovery. "Move in now," he ordered the security team. Vanessa struggled to free herself from Nathaniel's grip. "You're hurting me. Let go. How much is he paying you for this performance?" Nathaniel demanded, backing her against the wall. "How much to betray me again?" "This isn't about money," Vanessa insisted, fear rising as she saw no recognition in his eyes, just blind rage. "It's about ending this nightmare before anyone else gets hurt." "Too late for that." Nathaniel released her abruptly, moving to his laptop. "I've already set things in motion that can't be stopped. Even if they arrest me now, the damage is done." "What are you talking about? What else have you done?" Before he could answer, the door burst open. 2 security officers entered, followed by Devin himself. "Palmer," Devin addressed him calmly despite the tension radiating from his posture. "Step away from the computer." Nathaniel laughed, a sound devoid of humor or sanity. "The great Preston Caldwell, gracing me with his presence. Or is it Devin Harlow today? I get confused with your multiple personalities." "It's over," Devin stated simply. "The board has been fully briefed on my dual identity arrangement. The SEC has received our voluntary disclosure statement. Your attempt to create a scandal has failed." "Has it?" Nathaniel's smile turned predatory. "Check your phone. The financial press should be calling any second now." Devin's phone buzzed on cue. He ignored it, keeping his focus on Palmer. "Whatever you've done, we can contain it. But this ends now. You still don't get it, do you?" Nathaniel shook his head. "This was never just about exposing your dual identity. That was just the opening act." "What are you talking about?" Vanessa asked, edging toward Devin as Nathaniel's erratic behavior escalated. 3 hours ago, I sent documentation to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division alleging that Preston Xavier Caldwell, the real Preston Xavier Caldwell, died 12 years ago, and that our friend here has been impersonating him ever since to maintain control of his assets. The absurdity of the claim momentarily stunned both Devin and Vanessa. "That's completely fabricated," Devin finally responded, his voice leveled despite the outlandish accusation. "Preston Caldwell isn't dead because I'm Preston Caldwell." "Prove it," Nathaniel challenged. "Prove you're not just a clever imposter who saw an opportunity when the reclusive billionaire died. The beauty of my allegation is that it creates reasonable doubt, enough for investigations, enough for shareholders to panic, enough to force you into the public eye to defend yourself." Devin studied Palmer with newfound understanding of the threat he posed. This wasn't just revenge. It was calculated chaos designed to force public scrutiny where none had existed before. "Take him into custody," Devin instructed the security team. "Contact the authorities. Charge him with harassment, defamation, whatever will stick." As the security officers moved toward Nathaniel, he raised his hands in mock surrender. "Go ahead. Arrest me. It won't undo what I've started. The questions will follow you forever now." While they handcuffed Palmer, Devin turned to Vanessa. "Are you all right?" She nodded, rubbing her arm where Nathaniel's grip had left marks. "He's completely unhinged. I've never seen him like this." "This goes beyond revenge," Devin observed quietly. "This is scorched earth. What will you do? What I've always done. Adapt. Overcome." His expression revealed nothing of the turmoil beneath. "You should return to your hotel. Security will escort you." "Devin," Vanessa caught his arm as he turned to leave. "I'm sorry. For everything. Not just the affair, but for never seeing you clearly. For valuing ambition over authenticity." For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, regret perhaps, or memory of what they'd once been to each other. Then it was gone, replaced by the impassive mask of Preston Caldwell. "The past is irrelevant now," he said simply. "We all move forward." As Seattle's financial district came fully alive that morning, 3 trajectories diverged. Nathaniel Palmer in police custody, facing charges that would ensure his professional extinction. Vanessa returning to her hotel suite, $5 million richer, but fundamentally alone. And Devin Harlow. No, Preston Xavier Caldwell, preparing to address his board, navigating the complexities of a world where his carefully constructed walls had begun to crumble. None of them could have predicted the true cost of revenge, or how hollow victory would taste in its aftermath. Chapter 8. The Truth Beneath. The Zenith boardroom hummed with tense energy as 12 executives in impeccable suits waited for their CEO to arrive. News of Nathaniel Palmer's allegations had spread through the company's upper echelons like wildfire, despite security's best efforts to contain the situation. Outside, financial reporters gathered in the lobby, alerted by anonymous tips about potential leadership turmoil at one of Seattle's tech giants. At precisely noon, Devin entered through a side door, Laurel and Roman flanking him like generals accompanying their commander into battle. He had shed the last vestiges of Devin Harlow, the slight stoop, the unremarkable clothing, the deliberate understatement of his presence. Today, he was fully Preston Xavier Caldwell, immaculately dressed in a charcoal Tom Ford suit, his posture commanding, his gaze direct and penetrating. Ladies and gentlemen, he began without preamble. Thank you for adjusting your schedules on short notice. As you're aware, our company faces a coordinated attack designed to create uncertainty around my leadership and Zenith stability. He nodded to Laurel, who distributed folders to each board member. Inside, you'll find a comprehensive overview of the situation, Nathaniel Palmer's termination for corporate espionage, his subsequent accusations, and our response strategy. You'll also find a detailed account of my dual identity arrangement, the separation between Preston Caldwell, CEO, and Devin Harlow, private citizen. Eleanor Wright, the board's longest-serving member and former tech CEO herself, was the first to speak. Preston, while I appreciate the transparency now, I must ask, why the elaborate deception? Why maintain two separate identities for over a decade? Privacy and perspective, Devin answered without hesitation. The wealthier and more successful I became, the more difficult it was to maintain normal human connections. People either wanted something from Preston Caldwell or were intimidated by him. Devin Harlow allowed me to experience life without the distortions wealth creates. In your marriage? Asked Gerald Thompson, representing Zenith's largest institutional investor. Was that part of the experiment? A flicker of genuine emotion crossed Devin's face before he mastered it. Initially, no. I met Vanessa Montgomery before Zenith's explosive growth phase. I continued the separation to ensure her interest was genuine, not motivated by wealth. Later, it became complicated. Complicated enough that she had an affair with our marketing director, Eleanor noted dryly, creating the very situation we're now navigating. My personal issues with Mrs. Harlow have been resolved through divorce proceedings, Devin replied, his tone cooling. The more pressing concern is Palmer's false allegations regarding my identity and potential securities violations. Roman took over, outlining the legal strategy. We've already submitted voluntary disclosure statements to the SEC clarifying the dual identity arrangement. Our position is that Preston maintained full control and decision-making authority at all times, regardless of which persona he was presenting. No material information was ever withheld from the board or shareholders. For the next 2 hours, the board meeting continued, addressing concerns, formulating responses, and ultimately reaffirming their support for Devin's leadership, albeit with new conditions regarding transparency and public appearances. The board's priority is stability, Eleanor summarized as the meeting concluded. We'll stand behind you publicly, Preston, but we need you to be more visible going forward. No more reclusive CEO operating through proxies. Zenith needs a face, especially now. Devin nodded his acceptance, though inwardly he mourned the loss of the privacy he'd guarded so carefully. Thank you for your confidence. I won't let Zenith suffer for my personal choices. As the board members filed out, Devin remained seated, reviewing notes from the crisis management team. Zenith stock had dropped 7% in morning trading as rumors swirled. Not catastrophic, but concerning enough to require immediate action. You handled that well, Roman commented after the room had emptied. They could have been much harder on you, given the circumstances. They're pragmatists, Devin replied. No one benefits from a protracted leadership crisis, least of all shareholders. Still, changes are coming. The Preston Caldwell mystique is over. You'll need to become the public face of Zenith. A necessary evolution. Devin closed his folder with finality. What's the status on Palmer? Released on bail 2 hours ago, Laurel reported, checking her tablet. His attorney is already positioning this as whistleblower retaliation. And the FBI inquiry into Palmer's allegations about my identity? Preliminary only. They're obligated to investigate given the specific nature of the accusations, but without corroborating evidence, it won't progress far. Devin nodded, processing the information with practiced attachment. And Vanessa? Checked out of the Four Seasons at 10:15 a.m. According to our surveillance, she's viewing properties in Belltown, presumably using her settlement to secure new accommodations. The mention of the settlement provoked an unexpected twinge of emotion that Devin quickly suppressed. Discontinue the surveillance. She's no longer relevant to our security concerns. Are you sure that's wise? Roman questioned, given her connection to Palmer. Their relationship appears to be over. Devin cut him off. And we're not in the business of monitoring private citizens without cause. After Laurel departed, Roman remained, studying his protege with the insight of decades of friendship. You realize, of course, that ending surveillance doesn't erase her from your thoughts. Devin's expression closed like a vault. This isn't the time for amateur psychology, Roman. On the contrary, this is precisely the time. Roman leaned forward. You've won, Devin. Palmer is neutralized. Blueprint is absorbed. Vanessa is out of your life with a settlement generous enough to keep her from ever contesting it. The board is behind you. And yet, you look like a man who's lost everything. I've lost my privacy, Devin countered. Something I valued above most things. Is that all you've lost? The question hung between them, weighted with implications Devin refused to acknowledge. I have a press conference to prepare for, he said instead, effectively ending the conversation. Across town, Vanessa stood in an empty penthouse apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Elliott Bay. The real estate agent hovered nearby, describing premium finishes and building amenities with practiced enthusiasm. And the rooftop garden has stunning sunset views. The HOA fees cover all amenities, concierge service, and security. At $3.2 million, it's actually below market for this level of luxury in Belltown. Vanessa nodded, only half listening as she wandered through the space. 3 weeks ago, this purchase would have represented everything she'd wanted. Independence, status, the tangible rewards of ambition fulfilled. Now it felt hollow, a consolation prize in a game where everyone had lost. I'll take it, she decided abruptly. All cash offer. How quickly can we close? The agent's eyes widened slightly at the prospect of a commission without financing contingencies. With an all-cash offer, we could expedite to within a week. Perfect. Have the paperwork sent to my attorney. Vanessa handed over a business card, eager to escape the agent's transparent excitement over the easy sale. Outside on the street, Vanessa checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Nathaniel's attorney, a text message from a journalist seeking comment, and an email notification of the first monthly stipend from her divorce settlement arriving in her account. She ignored them all, hailing a taxi instead. Pike Place, she instructed the driver, suddenly craving the normalcy of Seattle's famous market, the simple pleasure of watching fishmongers toss their catch while tourists applauded. As the taxi navigated downtown traffic, Vanessa's thoughts drifted to the morning's confrontation at the Olympic Hotel. Nathaniel's face, unrecognizable in its rage and desperation, haunted her. Had she missed the signs of his instability? Or had the pressure of recent events broken something fundamental in him? And Devin? No. Preston, his controlled response, the careful way he'd asked if she was all right before dismissing her from his life yet again. 7 years of marriage, and she'd never truly known him. Now she wondered if she'd ever really known herself. At Pike Place, Vanessa wandered through the crowded marketplace, anonymous among tourists and locals, letting the sensory overload of colors, scents, and sounds wash over her. She purchased a coffee and found a quiet corner overlooking the water where she could observe without participating. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Breaking! Zenith CEO Preston Caldwell to hold first public press conference amid identity controversy. Vanessa clicked on the link, scanning the article that outlined the unfolding situation at Zenith, Palmer's allegations, the board's statement of support, the scheduled press conference where the famously reclusive CEO would address the media directly for the first time in the company's history. The accompanying photo showed Devin Preston entering Zenith Tower that morning, looking more like the powerful CEO he truly was than the unassuming husband she'd thought she'd married. The contrast was jarring, a visual representation of the deception that had defined their relationship. And yet, she couldn't summon the anger she'd expected to feel. Instead, a complex mixture of regret and understanding washed over her. They had both created false versions of themselves, worn masks they'd come to believe were their true faces. Impulsively, Vanessa checked the time of the press conference. 4 p.m., less than an hour away. Making a sudden decision, she hailed another taxi. Zenith Tower, please. In the executive suite at Zenith, Devin reviewed talking points with the crisis management team as final preparations for the press conference were completed. Remember, this is about transparency and continuity, advised Sophie Chun, Zenith's newly appointed PR director. Acknowledge the unusual nature of your dual identity without apologizing for it. Emphasize that Zenith's operations and leadership have been consistent regardless of what name you used. And Palmer's allegations? Devin asked. Address them directly but briefly. Baseless claims by a disgruntled former employee facing his own legal issues. Then pivot immediately to Zenith's strong financial position and innovation pipeline. Laurel entered with a tablet displaying real-time news coverage. Sir, the media presence downstairs has doubled in the last 30 minutes. Every major financial outlet is represented, plus general news and local stations. Devin nodded, unsurprised. The mysterious CEO, finally emerging from the shadows, made for compelling television, especially with allegations of identity fraud adding dramatic flair. One more thing, Laurel added hesitantly. Vanessa Harlow has arrived in the lobby. She's requesting to see you before the press conference. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to Devin. His expression revealed nothing of the conflicting emotions her name evoked. Security concerns? He asked after a deliberate pause. None that we can identify, Laurel replied. She came alone, submitted to standard security screening. She's waiting in the visitor lounge. We're on a tight schedule, Sophie reminded him. The press conference can wait 5 minutes. Devin stood, straightening his tie. I'll speak with her briefly. Continue preparations. In the elegantly appointed visitor lounge on the ground floor, Vanessa stood as Devin entered, struck again by how different he appeared in his true element. Confident, commanding, every inch the so rather than the passive husband she'd known. This is unexpected, he said, maintaining a professional distance. I saw the news about your press conference. Vanessa gestured toward the lobby where journalists were gathering. Your coming out party, so to speak. Necessity rather than choice. His tone remained neutral. What do you want, Vanessa? I have preparations to complete. I want to help. The word surprised them both. Palmer's allegations are about me as much as you. Our marriage, whether it was real or a sham, is central to his claims. Devin's eyes narrowed slightly. And how exactly do you propose to help? Let me stand with you at the press conference. Vanessa held his gaze steadily. Your estranged wife, confirming your identity, countering Palmer's narrative with first-hand knowledge. Why would you do that? Our divorce is nearly finalized. You have your settlement. Because despite everything, 7 years together meant something. Vanessa took a step closer. And because I'm partly responsible for this situation. My affair with Nathaniel set all this in motion. Devin studied her, searching for hidden motives, ulterior agendas. The optics would be complicated. We're in the middle of divorce proceedings, which makes my support more credible, not less. Vanessa's voice softened. I have no reason to help you unless I'm telling the truth. For a long moment, Devin was silent, weighing variables, calculating risks and rewards as he'd done throughout his career. Then, almost imperceptibly, something shifted in his expression, a decision made not through cold analysis, but something more fundamental. Very well, he said finally. But we keep it simple. You confirm my identity, refute Palmer's allegations, nothing more. Agreed. Vanessa nodded, relief evident in her posture. Thank you for trusting me with this. Trust is earned, Devin replied, though without the coldness that had characterized their recent interactions. This is an opportunity to begin that process. As they moved toward the conference room, walking side by side, but carefully not touching, both were acutely aware of the eyes following them. Security personnel, Zenith employees, waiting journalists catching their first glimpse of the mysterious CEO and his estranged wife. Ready? Devin asked as they paused outside the door. Vanessa took a deep breath. As I'll ever be. They entered together, facing a wall of cameras, microphones, and scrutiny. United for the first time in their shared truth rather than connected by mutual deception. The press conference would become legendary in Seattle business circles. The reclusive billionaire finally revealing himself, accompanied by his soon-to-be ex-wife, who calmly dismantled the narrative Palmer had tried to construct. Financial analysts would later cite it as a masterclass in crisis management, the moment when disaster transformed into opportunity. For Devin and Vanessa, however, it represented something more personal, a rare moment of authenticity after years of facades, a glimpse of what might have been possible had they met each other as their true selves from the beginning. And somewhere across town, watching the live stream from a dingy motel room, Nathaniel Palmer drained another glass of scotch, seeing his carefully constructed revenge crumble as his former lover stood beside his enemy, their united front more powerful than any allegation he could manufacture. The chess game was over. Checkmate had been called. All that remained was the aftermath, the picking up of pieces, the accounting of losses, the slow process of rebuilding what had been broken. Chapter 9. Ashes and Embers. 3 months after the press conference that had stabilized Zenith Enterprises and neutralized Nathaniel Palmer's allegations, Seattle settled into the gray stillness of winter. Rain tapped against the windows of Devin's penthouse office as he reviewed quarterly projections with Laurel, the rhythm of business having returned to normal despite the seismic shifts in his personal life. The digital division has exceeded expectations, Laurel noted, highlighting figures on her tablet. The blueprint acquisition is proving more valuable than initially projected. Devin nodded, allowing himself a moment of professional satisfaction. Client retention? 92%, well above industry standard for acquisitions. The transition team deserves credit. A notification appeared on Devin's screen, an update from the legal department. Palmer's lawsuit was dismissed, he observed, scanning the document. Lack of evidence, as expected. That should be the last of it, Laurel confirmed. His resources are depleted, his reputation beyond salvaging. The restraining orders against contacting you or Mrs. Harlow remain in effect. Devin closed the file, a complex mixture of emotions settling beneath his composed exterior. The victory over Palmer had been complete, but had come at considerable cost, not financial but personal. The private life he'd cultivated as Devin Harlow was gone forever. Preston Xavier Caldwell was now a public figure, his face recognized throughout Seattle's business community, his mystique replaced by media profiles and business magazine covers. The board meeting tomorrow, he transitioned. Have the restructuring proposals been distributed? This morning. Initial feedback is positive, especially regarding the expansion into artificial intelligence applications. Their review continued for another hour, the practiced efficiency of years of collaboration carrying them through complex business matters. Only after Laurel departed did Devin allow himself a moment of reflection, swiveling his chair to face the rain-blurred city beyond his windows. On his desk sat the morning Seattle Business Journal, his own face looking back from the cover under the headline, Zenith's Renaissance. How Preston Caldwell transformed crisis into opportunity. The accompanying article detailed Zenith's remarkable recovery from Palmer's allegations and the company's subsequent stock surge as investors responded positively to their more transparent, publicly engaged CEO. The article made brief mention of his divorce, noting only that Caldwell's ex-wife, Vanessa Harlow, declined to comment for this story beyond confirming that their divorce was finalized last month on amicable terms. Amicable. Such a bloodless word for the conclusion of 7 years together. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Caldwell, Roman Blackwell is here to see you." "Send him in." Roman entered, removing his overcoat and hanging it on the brass hook behind the door, a familiar gesture from countless meetings over decades of friendship. "Congratulations on the Palmer dismissal," Roman said, settling into the chair opposite Devin. "Not that the outcome was ever in doubt." "Legal battles are never certain," Devin replied. "But in this case, the evidence was overwhelmingly in our favor." "And Palmer himself? Any further issues anticipated?" "Not directly." Devin handed Roman a folder containing the latest security assessment. "He's left Seattle. Reports place him in Phoenix, attempting to rebuild under his mother's maiden name." "Unlikely to succeed," Roman observed after scanning the documents. "The digital trail is too extensive, the industry too interconnected. His choices, his consequences." Devin's tone was matter-of-fact, devoid of vindictiveness. Roman studied his friend closely. "You seem different, more at peace with everything that's happened." "Acceptance rather than peace," Devin corrected. "The dual identity was unsustainable long-term. Events merely accelerated the inevitable convergence." "And personally, has that convergence been healthy?" Devin considered the question, uncharacteristically taking time to examine his own emotional state rather than deflecting with business concerns. "I'm more myself now," he finally said. "Neither Preston nor Devin exclusively, but something more integrated, more authentic." "Good." Roman nodded approvingly. "And Vanessa? The divorce is final." "As of 3 weeks ago." Devin kept his expression neutral. "Clean, professional, no complications." "You haven't mentioned that she returned half the settlement." Devin's eyebrow raised slightly. "You're well informed. I'm your attorney of record on the divorce," Roman reminded him with a small smile. "I saw the transaction." She felt the original amount was excessive given the circumstances. Devin's tone gave nothing away. "Her choice. And the fact that she's using the remaining funds to establish a foundation for privacy rights in the digital age? Is that also her choice? Or did you have some influence there?" "Entirely her initiative." A hint of admiration crept into Devin's voice despite himself, though not without irony, given our history. Roman leaned forward, abandoning his professional demeanor for the directness of an old friend. "Have you spoken with her since the divorce was finalized?" "No." Devin rose, moving to the window to watch rain trace patterns on the glass. "Our last communication was at the signing. She's moved on." "So have I." "If you say so," Roman replied, unconvinced. "Though I find it interesting that two people who spent 7 years living a lie seem to have found their authentic selves only after separating." "Your point. Perhaps there's value in considering what might be possible now, between two people who finally know who they truly are." Devin turned, his expression carefully composed. "She betrayed me, Roman, with my own employee, using my company's resources to plan her exit. And you deceived her about your identity for 7 years," Roman countered evenly. "No one's hands are clean in this situation. The question is whether pride will prevent you both from exploring what might be possible now that the deceptions are gone." Before Devin could respond, his phone chimed with a calendar reminder. Zenith Foundation Annual Gala, 7 p.m. "Duty calls," he said, grateful for the interruption. "I need to prepare for tonight's event." Roman recognized the deflection, but chose not to press further. "Of course. Will you be attending alone?" "As CEO, I'm never truly alone at these functions," Devin replied dryly. "Half the board will be hovering, along with major donors and potential investors." "Not quite what I meant," Roman said, rising to retrieve his coat. "But message received. Good luck tonight." After Roman departed, Devin remained at the window, the conversation lingering in his thoughts. Pride had always been both his strength and his weakness, driving his success while simultaneously isolating him from genuine connection. His phone buzzed with a text from Laurel. Confirmed guest list for tonight's gala attached. Note addition: Vanessa Harlow, representing New Horizon Privacy Foundation. Devin stared at the message, an unexpected surge of emotion breaking through his carefully maintained composure. Whether coincidence or deliberate choice, Vanessa would be at the gala tonight, their first encounter since the divorce finalization. Across town, in her newly purchased Belltown penthouse, Vanessa stood before her closet, deliberating over her choice of attire for the evening. The Zenith Foundation Gala represented her first public appearance since the divorce and the launch of her foundation. The choice was symbolic: black Valentino for mourning what was lost, or deep blue Dior, suggesting new beginnings. Her phone rang. Meredith Spencer, former Zenith PR director and now strategic advisor to the Horizon Foundation. "Please tell me you haven't backed out," Meredith said without preamble. "I'm still going," Vanessa confirmed, selecting the Dior. "Though I'm questioning the wisdom." "It's strategic brilliance," Meredith insisted. "Your presence demonstrates confidence, social standing, and commitment to philanthropy despite personal challenges. Plus, the networking opportunities for Horizon are unparalleled. And the fact that Devin Preston will be there as host. A necessary complication," Meredith acknowledged, "but one that loses power the longer you avoid it. Better to establish the new normal now, on your terms, than let speculation fester." After hanging up, Vanessa sat at her vanity, studying her reflection as she applied her makeup. 3 months had changed her in subtle ways. A new confidence in her gaze, a stillness that hadn't been there before. The frantic ambition that had driven her for years had transformed into something more focused, more authentic. The Horizon Privacy Foundation had begun as a way to make amends, using half of her settlement to advocate for the very privacy rights she'd been willing to violate in her quest to escape her marriage. Over time, it had become something more, a genuine passion, a purpose beyond status or wealth accumulation. And tonight, she would face the man she'd betrayed, the man who had deceived her, the man she'd stood beside at that pivotal press conference before they had gone their separate ways. The grand ballroom of the Four Seasons gleamed with subtle opulence as Seattle's business elite gathered for the Zenith Foundation's annual fundraising gala. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables adorned with white orchids and silver accents, while a string quartet played softly in the background. Devin moved through the crowd with practiced ease, the role of host fitting him as comfortably as his custom tuxedo. He'd spent years observing social dynamics from the periphery. Now he applied those insights directly, connecting donors with researchers, board members with civic leaders, creating the network of relationships that would fuel Zenith's next phase of growth. "Quite the transformation," Eleanor Wright commented, appearing at his elbow with champagne in hand. "6 months ago, you were the ghost CEO. Now look at you, working the room like you were born to it." "Adaptation is survival," Devin replied with a small smile. "Zenith required a more visible leader, so that's what I've become. And personally, Eleanor's directness had always been her trademark. Has the convergence of your two identities been as seamless?" Before Devin could formulate a response, a subtle shift in the room's energy drew his attention to the entrance. Vanessa had arrived, striking in midnight blue that caught the light as she moved, her hair swept up to reveal the elegant line of her neck. "Ah," Eleanor noted, following his gaze. "Speaking of personal matters, I wasn't sure she'd actually come. The Horizon Foundation is a worthy addition to tonight's beneficiaries," Devin replied neutrally. "Her presence is appropriate." Eleanor's knowing smile suggested she saw more than Devin intended to reveal. "Well, I should mingle. Those research grants won't fund themselves." Left alone, Devin watched as Vanessa navigated the room, greeting acquaintances with composed grace. She showed no sign of discomfort, no hint that she was conscious of his gaze tracking her movements. Across the room, Vanessa felt Devin's attention like a physical touch even as she maintained conversations with potential donors. He looked exactly as she'd expected, commanding, impeccably dressed, completely in his element among the power brokers and influencers. What she hadn't expected was her own reaction, not the anger or resentment she'd prepared for, but something more complex, more unsettling. A recognition that the man watching her from across the ballroom was neither the passive husband she'd dismissed nor the vengeful CEO who dismantled her escape plan. He was something else entirely, someone she might never have truly known. Eventually, the inevitable moment arrived. As the crowd shifted between cocktails and the seated dinner, they found themselves in the same quiet corner near a wall of windows overlooking Elliott Bay. Vanessa. Devin's greeting was formal but not cold. Congratulations on the Horizon Foundation. An admirable initiative. Thank you. She met his gaze directly. And congratulations on Zenith's continued success. The market has responded well to your more public leadership style. Necessity drives adaptation. His eyes studied her face, noting subtle changes, a new confidence, a directness that hadn't been there during their marriage. How are you finding your new role as a privacy advocate? Ironic given our history. A small smile softened her features. But meaningful. Technology has outpaced ethics in many areas. The foundation hopes to help restore balance. A moment of awkward silence stretched between them. 7 years of shared history and mutual deception hovering unspoken in the air. I should thank you, Devin finally said, surprising them both with his candor. Your support at the press conference was unexpected but crucial. It was the right thing to do, Vanessa replied simply. Palmer's allegations were false. Whatever issues existed between us, I couldn't let those lies stand unchallenged. Even after I dismantled Blueprint, froze your assets, essentially declared war, even then, Vanessa's directness matched his own. We both made choices we might reconsider given the chance. I betrayed your trust. You deceived me about your identity. Neither of us was entirely the victim or entirely the villain. The honesty in her assessment struck Devin with unexpected force. Throughout their confrontations, their divorce negotiations, he maintained the righteous certainty of the wronged husband. Her acknowledgement of mutual culpability challenged that comfortable narrative. And now, he asked, the question layered with meaning beyond its simplicity. Now we move forward, Vanessa said, her voice softening. Wiser, perhaps. More authentic, hopefully. Separately, Devin clarified, though it wasn't quite a statement. Vanessa studied him, seeing beyond the CEO persona to the complexity beneath. The man who had created an elaborate double life, seeking genuine connection, who had responded to betrayal with calculated retribution, but who now stood before her with something like uncertainty in his eyes. For now, she answered carefully, though I've learned that certainty about the future is often an illusion. Before Devin could respond, Laurel appeared discreetly at his side. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're needed for the welcome address, sir. Of course. Devin nodded, turning back to Vanessa. We should continue this conversation, perhaps in a less public setting. I'd like that. Her smile held no artifice, no calculation, simply honest acknowledgement of possibility. As Devin moved toward the podium, Vanessa watched him transform once more into the confident CEO, commanding attention with his presence alone. Yet something had shifted between them, a door left slightly ajar rather than firmly closed. Whether anything would come of that opening remained uncertain. Trust, once broken, required more than good intentions to rebuild. But for the first time since the unraveling of their marriage, both Devin and Vanessa faced each other not as adversaries or strangers, but as two people who had glimpsed the truth beneath the facades they'd both maintained for so long. 2 months later, as Seattle's winter yielded reluctantly to early spring, Devin sat in a quiet corner of Mercer's, a discreet restaurant overlooking the waterfront. The lunch crowd had thinned, leaving the space peaceful enough for private conversation. Across from him, Vanessa sipped her espresso, their meal completed, but their discussion continuing. The third such meeting since the gala. Their conversations had evolved from careful civility to something approaching honesty, each revelation a small step toward understanding what had truly transpired during their 7 years together. You never once considered telling me the truth?" Vanessa asked, the question holding curiosity rather than accusation. "Not even after we were married?" "I planned to," Devin admitted. "On our 5th anniversary, I'd purchased property on Bainbridge Island, waterfront, private, large enough for a family. I intended to reveal everything then, show you what our life could truly be." "What changed?" Devin considered the question, searching for the precise truth rather than the comfortable narrative he'd told himself. "I noticed you growing distant, less satisfied with our life together. Your ambition seemed to be transforming into something else, status-seeking, materialism. I began to question whether you would love the real me or just the wealth and position I could provide. So you tested me," Vanessa observed, "and I failed spectacularly." "We both failed," Devin corrected, surprising himself with the admission. "I created an impossible situation. How could you truly love someone who wasn't fully present, who withheld essential truths about himself?" Vanessa's eyes reflected understanding rather than the resentment he might have expected. "And I was so focused on what our life lacked that I failed to appreciate what we had. The simple joys, the quiet moments, they seemed insufficient compared to the success I craved. We were playing different games without realizing it," Devin noted. "I was testing your love for me, separate from my wealth. You were pushing me to be more ambitious, not knowing I was already living that part of my life separately. A perfect storm of misunderstanding." Vanessa shook her head slightly, and then Nathaniel appeared, offering everything I thought was missing. "While using you to access Zenith resources," Devin finished. "We were all using each other in different ways." A comfortable silence settled between them. Not the tense quiet of adversaries, but the thoughtful pause of two people processing difficult truths together. "Have you heard anything about Palmer?" Vanessa finally asked. "He struggled to rebuild," Devin answered truthfully. "The restraining orders expired last month, but there's been no contact. My sources say he's working for a small marketing firm in Tucson, far below his previous position. Do you still hate him?" The directness of the question gave Devin pause. "No," he realized with some surprise. "The anger has faded. He's simply irrelevant now." "And me?" Vanessa asked, her voice softening. "Am I irrelevant too?" Devin met her gaze, allowing himself a moment of complete honesty. "You have never been irrelevant, Vanessa. Not even when I wished you could be." Something shifted in her expression, vulnerability beneath the composed exterior she maintained. "Where does that leave us?" "I don't know," Devin admitted. "But I'd like to find out." "As who?" Vanessa challenged gently. "Preston Caldwell? Devin Harlow? Some combination of both." "Simply as myself," he replied. "No more divided identities. No more tests or games. Just truth." Vanessa considered his words. The weight of their shared history balanced against the possibility of something new, something authentic in a way their marriage had never been. "Truth," she repeated, as if testing the concept. "That would be a novel approach for both of us." Her smile held no bitterness, only rueful acknowledgement of their past mistakes and tentative hope for what might lie ahead. Devin returned it, feeling something long constricted in his chest begin to loosen. Outside, Seattle's persistent rain had yielded to unexpected sunshine, light glinting off the waters of Puget Sound visible through the restaurant's windows. Neither Preston Caldwell nor Devin Harlow, but simply Devin himself, reached across the table, his hand extending into the space between them. After a moment's hesitation, Vanessa placed her hand in his, not a promise, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement of possibility. A beginning rather than an ending. The truth at last, beneath the masks they'd both worn for so long. In his penthouse office that evening, Devin stood at the windows overlooking the city, watching lights appear as dusk settled over Seattle. His phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Thank you for lunch. Same time next week." As he typed his reply, Devin reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment, from the calculated revenge that had consumed him to the unexpected